No heroics into Sandoval, please.
Cheers, Jeff.
Hey guys, it's James here. Welcome back to another F1 2020 My Team Career Mode video. We are here for episode number 10 at the French Grand Prix. If you did miss the last episode in Canada, make sure you go check that one out. It was a really good race and we did a really good qualifying lap. And as you can see, we're just having a little bit of a look around. We ordered a new chassis upgrade, but if you are new around here, make sure you are subscribed. I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers by April. And if you are enjoying the series, make sure you let me know in the comments below and leave a thumbs up on the video. But I'm just going to advance time.
I know we were expecting some new developments to come through, but some of them have failed the quality control. Make sure you indicate what you'd like redeveloped via the R&D screen.
So as we can see, the chassis upgrade that I've been looking forward to so much has in fact failed. That is so annoying. I guess we'll just have to redevelop it. That will come before the British Grand Prix, but that is really frustrating. Our chassis is still the worst on the grid, so we need to improve that. But we're going to go to qualifying for the French Grand Prix. So here we are then in the garage for qualifying for the French Grand Prix. As we can see, we're just going to check the setup. I'm using a slightly different setup to the golden one. It is very similar. I've just put a little notch more rear downforce on. I'm going to change the differential for what it was in practice. 50-50 as always. And it is just a tiny little bit different. But I'm just going to show you one lap. This is my second lap of the session. The first lap put us in P15. But I'm going to show you just this one lap because it is marginally better. As you can see, coming through turns 1 and 2, tiny little lift off in turn 2. Hopefully, if you nail that, it's actually flat out if the car was a little bit better, but this car just doesn't simply have the downforce for that, as it's not one of the best cars on the grid. As you head down this tight and twisty section, it's quite difficult, important to get a good exit out of here now because we're going to go onto the long back straights. We can see 2.5 tenths up, really using all of the track limits here as we head onto the long straight. 1.5 tenths up. On our previous best, which is pretty good. We're in amongst the midfield in 15th place. It's around about where the car is and compared to the way I'm driving it, obviously on 100 difficulty. So it's not easy at all, but just I think the balance of the setup with the 3.7 wings is really improving the car. As we can see, we're 3 tenths up going through this section. So we swing around the really long, fast right-hander. That's absolutely flat out, 199 miles an hour as we brake for this double apex turn 11. Very difficult to get this one right. You see, we run a tiny little bit wide and that's going to cost us half a tenth or so. Luckily, with large runoff areas here in France and no real threat of a gravel trap, there's plenty of space to run off the track if you do make a mistake. You see if you go to the right, there's the pit lane there. We head onto the final 2 corners, 3.5 tenths up. We actually make a big mistake into the last corner, took way too much of the curb, and as we can see, we've lost 3 tenths there, and we're only a couple of hundredths up. As we come across the line, 22 hundredths better than our previous best, and it's going to put us in 17th place. Not the worst. I can think of plenty worse things that could have happened there, but still not a great qualifying.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Bottas, Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then. Welcome along then to France, host of the world-famous Tour de France. But we're not talking 2 wheels today, we're talking 4, in a country widely thought of as giving birth to the art of motor racing back in the late 1800s. We've come a long way since then, and you're about to find out how far. It's time for the French Grand Prix. A lap of Paul Ricard then consists of 15 corners and a total length of around 3.6 miles. Drivers will need to position their cars carefully on the exit of the flat-out turn 10, ready for the double apex right-hander at 11. Watch out for potential overtaking action at the end of the start-finish straight and into the heavy braking zone of turn 8. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Albon, Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel and Perez, Sainz, Stroll, Norris and Esteban Ocon, Ricciardo, Leclerc, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Kevin Magnussen and Grosjean, Gasly, Kvyat, James and Antonio Giovinazzi, Russell, Raikkonen, Joe and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
So here we are then on the grid for the French Grand Prix, obviously starting 17th, but we'll be doing a 1-stop compared to the leaders who'll have to do a 2-stop because they have to start on the soft tyres. We can start on the medium tyre, but we're going to go to the start of the race. We're going to go to 5 red lights for the start of the French Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go, and we get a terrible start. We were really slow reacting to the lights there, and Antonio Giovinazzi is already alongside, and he is actually slightly ahead as we head down towards turn 1, trailing Danny Kvyat in his wake. We try and go down the inside as Kevin Magnussen locks up in front. We hit the bollard on the inside of turn 1, and that's going to allow Kimi Raikkonen to get a run through turn 2. We go side by side, but we just out-drag the Alfa Romeo on the exit, heading down towards the tight turn 3. We lunge it down the inside of Antonio Giovinazzi. It's side by side as we head and swoop round these long corners. We go down the inside of Danny Kvyat as well, but we get caught up behind his teammate Pierre Gasly, and we go side by side through turn 6, the really slow section, heading out onto the long straight, and we have held position on lap 1, which is not terrible, but it's not great, as Antonio Giovinazzi will have a really good run at us down at the back straight. Obviously those Alfa Romeos are very quick in a straight line, as he is actually not going to pull out. He didn't quite get as good as a run as I thought he had, as we are still in 17th, trailing Danny Kvyat through the chicane. We get caught up a little bit on the curb, and that's going to deny us a good run through the long, flat-out right-hander of turn 10. So we're just holding position, everyone about steady half a second gap between us. We run a little bit wide, obviously it's very heavy fuel in the car, so it's very difficult to control the car in the early stages of the race, especially this being a long 27-lap race. We swoop round the double apexed turn 11 here, and we're still in 17th place. There are 2 Haas cars and then the 2 AlphaTauris in front of us, so we probably want to try and jump those, maybe at the pit stops, or maybe if we just have outright pace we'll beat them on track. But at the moment the threat is really coming from Antonio Giovinazzi behind us, as he's just 3/10 behind as we cut around the last corner, and Valtteri Bottas sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so he is currently leading the race as Guan Yu Zhou has got past both Williams cars. So it's been a decent start for my teammate. He's known for making good starts as we hold position on that lap. We cut to the end of lap 2, so we can see we're still in this train that's led by Kevin Magnussen, then Romain Grosjean, then Pierre Gasly, then Danny Kvyat, and then Antonio Giovinazzi, who's just dropped back a couple of tenths perhaps as we go on to lap 3. DRS has now been enabled, so that will help any overtaking opportunities. We're sort of in this DRS train that starts with Magnussen and ends with Kimi Raikkonen. It'd be really nice if Guan Yu Zhou could get onto the back of this train. As we can see, we head on to the start of lap 5, still trailing in this train that starts with Kevin Magnussen. We get a good run on Danny Kvyat though through turn 2. We've got a little bit of a worn energy store, so that's not great, but we try and go to the outside here of turn 3, run a little bit wide. We have to cut that corner. We won't overtake Danny Kvyat. We'll go nice and slowly through there and slot back into where we were, so there's no problems there. We just ran a little bit wide, weren't able to keep it on the circuit, but with the large runoff area that's fine, and we stay in 17th place. We didn't have to let Antonio Giovinazzi through because he wasn't attempting an overtake. As we head on to the end of lap 5, onto lap 6, we're very close to Danny Kvyat. We're going to try and go for it. No, we haven't really got the speed. So we get a good run though through turn 2 as we head down towards, he goes very, very defensive as we head down towards turn 3. It's very tight. We try and maybe stick it around the outside, but in fact we just have to brake because we haven't quite got the extra speed on him. There's not a DRS zone there, so we didn't really get the extra kick of speed that we could have done. As we go now through turn 6 onto the long straight, we get caught up a little bit. We take a very different line towards the AI. We weren't able to use the full extent of the track at turn 6, but now cutting onto lap 7, we're side by side with Danny Kvyat. Round turn 6 we go. He brakes a little bit and we actually swing round the other side. We do a bit of a switchback manoeuvre and we've got ahead of the AlphaTauri. He got all flustered and caught up on the exit of turn 6, and that has allowed us to swing round the outside of turn 7 and up into 10th place because the leaders have made their first pit stops. As I said at the start of the race, they'll be running a 2-stop strategy whereas we're just going to do the 1-stop strategy, and hopefully that'll open up a window perhaps for some points, because they, starting on the softs, are going to be held up as they will have to do a 2-stop. We cut to the end of lap 8 and we haven't really been able to gap Danny Kvyat. He's still very, very close behind. We're still in this train with Grosjean now leading it, as Grosjean has got past Magnussen. We've made a little mistake through turn 11 and Danny Kvyat goes up the inside into turn 12. We stick it round the outside, but we haven't taken the racing line. We're onto the marbles on the exit of turn 12, and Danny Kvyat, we're going side by side with him into turn 13. Who's going to yield first? We swing it all the way around the outside of turn 13, make a little bit of contact with Danny Kvyat, and we do keep 6th place now because the others have made their pit stops. We'll be up into 5th as it's Lance Stroll making his pit stop, binning those soft tyres. We cut to the end of lap 10. We're still in 5th place. There's a huge train forming behind the 2 Alfa Romeos, both Mercedes and both Red Bull cars stuck in this long train that starts with Romain Grosjean, as we are going to head into the pits now at the end of lap 10, try and do the undercut. I know we're supposed to be pitting on lap 12, but we're going to go for the pit on lap 10 because we'll be able to stick it all the way to the end. The hard tyres can last a long time around this circuit, so we do drop into 12th place. It'll probably be lower than that because we haven't really gapped the second train that's led by Sebastian Vettel after he made his first pit stop. But in the pits we go. What's this pit stop going to be like? 2.6 seconds, pretty good. As we are now in 21st, probably 22nd place as Nicholas Latifi overtakes us, but we will have a little bit of clean air, especially if we can get past Latifi quickly, in which we can build a gap on the likes of Kevin Magnussen, Romain Grosjean and Pierre Gasly up ahead. As we cut to the end of lap 11, we swing to the left hand side of the circuit, DRS, Rich and overtake. We get past Nicholas Latifi and up into 21st, but this is all about using the fresh tyres to our advantage and trying to undercut Grosjean, Magnussen and Pierre Gasly. They'll be stopping at the end of lap 12. As I say, we get to the end of lap 12. George Russell is pitting, as is one Haas car, one AlphaTauri and one Alfa Romeo. As we can see, we're going to be side by side with Romain Grosjean coming into turn 1. Who's going to yield first? We've got ahead of Romain Grosjean, the leader of the train that we were following, as we're behind Guan Yu Zhou, our teammate. So the undercut strategy has worked. We are ahead of the Haas car, and that is brilliant for our race because that means we'll be the leading car, except for Daniel Ricciardo, who started on the medium tyre. So we'll be the leading one-stopper as our teammate is really, really holding us up through turn 6. He's going so slowly. He's crawling through there. And Romain Grosjean might get the run on us. As we can see, the control electronics and the energy store are both very warm. But here comes Romain Grosjean on the left-hand side. We've got such extra speed on our teammate as well that we swoop to the outside, and it's been 3 wide, but we are the victors of that little battle with Grosjean and Guan Yu Zhou. Guan Yu Zhou holding up Romain Grosjean, as we can see, and we are up into 16th place. But obviously the cars ahead of us will have to make another pit stop. As we can see, Valtteri Bottas has got ahead of us. Lewis Hamilton has made his second stop onto the medium compound tyre, and we are going side by side with Lewis Hamilton down this straight. I'll put the car in lean mix. There's no point fighting Hamilton. He's on fresh mediums. I'm on worn hards. We cut to the end of lap 19. As you can see, Romain Grosjean is leading a very long train with Alexander Albon caught up inside the train, as are the 2 Ferrari cars who are also 2-stopping. We are potentially leading this train, but we're just going to try and perhaps gap Romain Grosjean. But we are in 5th place. If we can hold this position and hold up this train for the rest of the race, this will match our best ever result that was in Azerbaijan. And that'll be 10 more very important points for the team. As we can see, the gap almost 9 tenths with Romain Grosjean, but we haven't got a great exit out of turn 8, but it doesn't matter because we are still leading him. He won't be close enough to have a go. As we can see just how close Romain Grosjean is behind us. We go defensive, but then we swing back onto the racing line as it's clear that he won't go for an overtake as we cut onto lap 20. Flat out through turn 2. These hard tyres are holding up quite well as we cut onto lap 25 now with just 3 laps to go. Romain Grosjean goes for it down the inside into turn 8, but we shut the door quite defensively, and through turn 9 we do stay ahead, and he is just 3 tenths behind us, and there's a huge train forming. The second part of the train is actually led by Grosjean's teammate Kevin Magnussen, denying both Ferraris and both McLaren's points. As we can see, Daniel Ricciardo is in 4th place, so he's been overtaken by the leading 3 2-stoppers, but he is the leading 1-stopper, and then it's myself, and then it's Grosjean, then it's Kvyat, and then all the 2-stoppers are stuck behind Kevin Magnussen. We cut onto lap 27. We've been able to fend off any more attacks from Romain Grosjean, and with just a few corners to go, can we hold on to 5th place? Danny Kvyat has got past Romain Grosjean, but they have held each other up. They're just 5 tenths behind us, but now 7 tenths. They went side by side through turn 11. We just got a couple more corners to hold on through turn 12. Just 3 turns to go as Lewis Hamilton sets the fastest lap, but Valtteri Bottas has won the race. Just 2 corners to go, what will be a monumentous 5th place and a genius strategy around the final corner. We've got to get a good exit. The engine is very warm, the tyres are going off, but what that will mean is we're going to come across the line and finish in 5th place. And we win driver of the day as well, going from 17th up to 5th. What a brilliant race that was.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes. So, let's review the drivers' standings. More points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Now, let's discuss, Ants, who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
I have to give it to James. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So as we can see, we have equalled in our rivalry with Esteban Ocon, who eventually finished 19th. So the Frenchman had a disaster wheeling the rivalry 8-7. We picked up some good sponsor bonus and some more acclaim for the team, which is good, especially with the driver transfer window coming up relatively soon. But if you did enjoy this episode, make sure to like the video and leave a comment down below. Subscribe if you are new to the channel and you want to see twice weekly Formula One content. We've got the Austrian Grand Prix coming up next, which is a circuit I'm also very good at. But I will catch you in Austria. Later, guys.